Hello YouTube. How you doing? It's your boy Seven. So today I got a lot of shit on my mind. And I'm gonna just try to get right into it. This is a political video. This video is about universal health care. Now, I gotta say, I had a discussion with a few friends about it, and I started thinking about it in a different way because, I'm very liberal. I consider myself independent, but I would like to see some type of universal healthcare plan implemented in America. I feel like right now there are a few Democratic candidates that are fighting for that, but I never hear them try to make it relatable to people. Like, they spout facts, but facts don't work on some people. People gloss over facts, because they don't see themselves as part of a statistical analysis of a situation. And to some degree, that might actually be accurate because, statistics are a snapshot. They're not, a perfect representation of a fluid situation. So a lot of people just kind of blow off numbers as, I'm not in that. That's not me. I don't see how that affects me because, you're talking about bigger issues in different places and you're trying to wrap them all up into one thing. And people tend to, they ignore those numbers. But today I'm gonna try to bring universal health care. We call it Medicare for all here. That's the bill we're fighting for in the United States. I'm gonna try to bring it into a different kind of perspective because for me, healthcare should be talked about as the only issue. Like right now in the United States, we got a lot of problems. Gun violence and these mass shootings being one of those problems. And, people tend to try to isolate the problem like, oh, well, there was a shooting, and then people try to go rooting around in the shooting for the solution. They talk about how, like, oh, it's guns, there's too many guns, and we got to do something about registration. And then, you got the people that come out talking about, oh, no, this is my right, this is the Second Amendment, and there's a lot of, like, influence from the gun lobby, and, like, people start arguing back and forth about guns and what to do with them. And, they try to regulate how many bullets you can have in a gun and what particular kind of gun you can actually use. They're trying to get assault rifles banned and all this other stuff. Like, another problem, we have the most prisoners per capita, out of, like, any other country in the world. We're locking people up at an incredible rate, and a lot of times people just think about, oh, well, it's the homes and, black crime and, these things are happening. So we got to do something about it, to try to keep our streets safe. And, they root around in the problem looking for the solution. Like, they see one person go to jail for drugs, and they just kind of blow up. Drugs are actually another issue that people face. The opioid crisis, as it's come to be called. Drug overdoses are happening, at an alarming rate. And people don't really know what to do because drugs are just so pervasive. And so what ends up happening, people try to oh, a lot of people dismiss drug overdoses like, well, that person was just a junkie. And, they just kind of blow it off. Or if they do want to do something, they try to make it a crime issue. Like, oh, these people, they're kind of just like the dregs of society. So this is what they're just going to do. Like, we can't stop them. And the drug problem, with trafficking, they're trying to always bust people and dealers. And again, they're looking for the solution in the problem. Like, drugs are the problem. Well, let's regulate drugs and try to do this and that to, slow the flow of drugs into the country. Or, they try to keep up with it in a bad way. My point is, universal healthcare can actually touch every major issue that we're having in the United States right now. And I'm going to try to explain how, because by first pointing out the problem, okay? The big problem that a lot of this shit is stemming from, and this is going to be one of those hard to swallow pills. Hard to swallow pill. The United States is suffering from generations of fetal alcohol syndrome and undiagnosed mental illness. That's a hard to swallow pill. A lot of us are children of alcoholics, and a lot of us were raised in homes with people who never got help. And it's starting to bleed through and show in a lot of ways. I mean, you can see the problems are getting worse and pervasive, and everybody's like, oh, well, what can you do? People have individual responsibility. There's no way to turn this around. No, that's not true. Because if you look around the world, okay, at countries with universal healthcare, they don't have these problems, because when they reach out for help, someone is actually there to help them. Whereas in the United States, if you reach out for help, the first thing they reach for is your wallet. And if you can't afford to get the help you need, you end up self-medicating. Now, I have a friend, a very good friend of mine, one of my best friends, recently got into it with his woman. The cops were called. He got arrested and he's on probation now. This is a fucked up situation. He's not a bad guy. He's never been in a situation where he's so close to being in jail before. And I see him as like, man, why is this happening to him? And I realize it's because, I'm gonna just be honest, this girl's a fucking alcoholic. Like, this wouldn't have happened to him if she was able to get help. But there's no help for her. And see, you need to bring it down to like the micro scale about individuals, but you need to be able to blow it up to a bigger issue of like, there isn't one thing happening in your life that couldn't be impacted by having healthcare, the ability to get help. And I ain't talking about just mental health. I'm talking about just health in general. Your life being healthy is a big deal. Having good health improves your life, period. And, you look at the issue, like all these guns and mass shootings and shit, like healthcare can actually have an effect on that. Because if you get people in the door and you remove the stigma around mental illness, and people are able to go in and get help and talk when they need to, they wouldn't have to resort to, or you may be able to nip some of this shit in the bud by getting the people younger and, getting them talking things out when they're younger, and you may be able to like prevent some of this violence if people are actually able to get the mental health that they need or the treatment that they need. If you put drugs into the, drugs and alcohol into the mental health category, under addiction, then you get a lot more people freed up from that kind of cycle of violence, and you wouldn't have so many people that are on the verge of being locked up or locked up because of this. So our prison population will come down. Like it's an issue that can affect basically everything. I don't really see too many of these people out here pushing for Medicare for all or universal health care as the one issue that can actually touch every other issue. They just kind of spout facts like, you know, this many people don't have it, this many people are dying, they just spout the numbers, but they never bring it down to the level of like, no, getting healthy is the first step to improving all of our lives, making things better for everybody. See, like reparations, that's a big issue in the black community. People talk about how black people are just basically left by the wayside to pull themselves up by the bootstraps with no boots. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they've just had to overcome this generations of institutionalized racism. And personally, I'm for reparations. I am. But I'll say this, if you do reparations, you're only affecting the black community. Or, if you do get rid of guns, you're only affecting gun owners. Like, I don't have a gun. Nobody I know has a gun. So even if you got rid of guns, like, yeah, you would piss off a big part of the Second Amendment people. If you keep putting regulations and tweaking all these things with the gun rights. But it would only affect those people. Whereas with healthcare, it hits everybody. You've instantly improved everyone's situation. You aren't just kind of handing things out piecemeal and dealing with each little individual fire. You've put an umbrella over that can actually affect every situation out there. I don't hear people talking about healthcare like that. They talk about it in, black and white terms. And I think we need to change that. We really need to start discussing how it can benefit everyone and have a hand in lifting up every situation. Now, yeah, we talk about other countries and how they're doing it, but really honestly look at the problems that the United States is having. They don't have this gun violence. They don't have this prison, pipeline. They don't have these drug overdose problems. You know what I'm saying? They just don't have it. And what is the common denominator in all these places that don't have these issues? Universal health care. Like, they deal with things in a different way. They've decided to help people who need help. And it does lower the stress and anxiety. And it is a preventative step. Because when you're healthy, you're happy. When you're healthy, you have a better outlook. Okay? And it does change everybody's life. To pull that stress off of everybody, it's like a weight is being lifted. Now, I'm gonna also throw this angle onto the universal healthcare thing as well. For all those people out there who want to fight corruption, who see the government as captured by the moneyed interests, the owner class, the business class. Universal healthcare is actually the first step on that ladder to pull people out from underneath this, capitalist oppression type, system. Because you're removing one of the major pegs from their foundation, which is the insurance industry. The insurance industry is making money hand over fist by holding people hostage when they need, help the most. And I'm not saying You know, I'm not gonna say what they're doing is immoral. I mean, I guess if this is where we've come to and this is a good system for us now, that's okay, but it could be better. You know, the insurance industry has pumped a lot of money into government. They write their own regulations, you know, and they work hand in hand with the pharmaceutical industry to extract wealth from sick and dying people. I mean, let's just be real. They hold our health hostage, okay? So, universal health care can actually knock out that industry and deal a major blow to the pharmaceutical industry all at once. So, that entire peg of the table, or, you know, that entire side of the moneyed interests influencing our political system has just been completely removed. You just dealt a major blow, you know what I'm saying, to that kind of system. To the system. You dealt a major blow to the system. You did. By putting universal health care in place, you know, I think it will be the first step on trying to address, you know, that kind of greed in Washington, D.C. You know, that's the first thing that should be addressed because it's the easiest thing to address. Like, I really think we need to start talking about healthcare in a more like holistic way. Like, put it in every issue. Any issue that comes up, put universal healthcare in there with it because it can improve that situation. It will have some effect. Like, look at our education system. Like, we have in the United States anyway, we have basically destroyed our healthcare system. We're taking out money. Our teachers are underpaid. You know, the books are old. The schools are old. The way we teach is old. Like, it's just we have not kept up with it at all. And it's starting to get to the point where we really don't care. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And I would say, let's talk about how if universal healthcare were implemented, it would change things. Well, for one, our teachers are not being paid enough to afford their own medical needs, okay? Because they're trying to fight for their kids by buying them supplies and, you know, things for the classroom. But if you remove the stress of that one thing, you may improve slightly. I'm not saying it's gonna, you know, change our entire education system overnight, but over time, yeah, if teachers don't have to worry about their own medical needs and their own families' medical needs, they can focus more on, you know, the classroom. So it really does have an effect on, it will touch everyone and it will affect every major issue if we just get this one thing done. I don't know. I hope I made my point clear. Like, we are in a very bad way over here in the United States. I understand now why people are laughing at us because everybody else has seen when you improve the health of your population, you really do improve, you know, you're lifting up society as a whole. You ain't just putting out small fires everywhere and trying to look for the solution in the problem. You've come up with a larger scheme that can actually lift all boats and start pulling people out of, you know, bad situations. So yeah, that's kind of my thought process on this shit. I thought about it for a while, and I'm really starting to see that this is the only issue that we should be fighting for right now. And we need to show people that it can really change things for everyone. So yeah, that's my video. Those are my thoughts. If you watched it and liked it, I guess you can like it, or leave a comment. Thank you.